My wedding day turned into a nightmare when my fiance's family tried to take what was mine, but I made sure they regretted it. I'm Emma, 28, and I never imagined I'd be sharing something this wild, but here we go. I grew up in a typical suburban home. My dad worked long hours as a mechanic. My mom ran a small craft business from home, and my older sister helped her with online orders. My grandparents lived just a few blocks away when I was a kid, and they were basically my second parents. They worked hard their entire lives, saved every penny, and always told me that owning property was one of the most valuable things a person could do. When I was 21, I lost both of my grandparents in the same year. It was devastating for my family, but they left me their small, fully paid off home. It wasn't a mansion, just a cozy 3-bedroom house with a little backyard, but it was full of love and memories. After thinking it over, I decided to move in and make it my own. It was close to my parents, close to work, and it just felt right. For the next few years, life was steady, no major drama. I worked as a front desk manager at a small boutique hotel in town. The pay wasn't amazing, but it covered my bills, and I liked the routine. Then 2 years ago, I met Daniel, well, my ex-fiance now. He was a guest at the hotel, staying there for a friend's wedding. He kept finding excuses to come to the front desk, asking for extra pillows, needing restaurant recommendations, just to talk to me. After a few days of this, he finally asked for my number. I thought he was sweet and a little goofy in a charming way, so I gave him a chance. We hit it off fast. He lived a couple of hours away, but that wasn't a huge deal. We met up on weekends, took road trips, had game nights with my sister, and did all the usual dating things. My parents liked him too, though they always joked that I was moving a little fast. After a year, he proposed on my birthday by hiding the ring in a giant slice of cheesecake. It was messy and ridiculous, but I thought it was adorable at the time. That's when things started getting weird. Right after we got engaged, Daniel made a few offhand comments about my house. Things like, "So, you're not planning on living here alone once we're married, right? And I'll need the biggest closet since I'm the man of the house." They seemed like jokes, but something about his tone didn't sit right with me. And then came the real red flags. He introduced me to his parents, who lived about an hour away. They threw a huge engagement dinner, and that's when I realized just how pushy and entitled they could be. His mom was obsessed with appearances. She wouldn't stop talking about how she wanted the wedding of the year. She stressed over things like flower arrangements, the catering, even the exact shade of gold the napkins should be. His dad was quieter, but had this weird, calculating energy, like he was sizing me up the whole time. During dinner, Daniel casually mentioned my house, and his mom's eyes practically sparkled. She immediately started bombarding me with questions. Is it fully paid off? How big is it? What's its market value? It felt intrusive, but I answered politely, thinking they were just excited for us. Later, on the way home, I told Daniel that his parents seemed really fixated on my house. He brushed it off, saying they were just old-fashioned and saw property as a family asset. That explanation didn't sit well with me, but I let it go to avoid unnecessary tension. But after that, things spiraled. His mom took over the wedding planning, booking vendors, and making decisions without even asking me. If I disagreed, she'd act surprised, like she thought I didn't care. She even hinted that my parents couldn't afford a big wedding, so it was best if she handled everything. My parents tried to be polite, but I was getting increasingly frustrated. And then Daniel dropped a bombshell. One evening, while we were relaxing at my house, he said we needed to talk about our future living arrangements. I assumed we'd live here. Why wouldn't we? But he had a different idea. He said his parents thought it was only fair for me to put the house in both our names, so it would be our marital home. I suggested a prenup if he was worried about fairness, but signing over my house? Absolutely not. That's when his whole demeanor changed. His expression hardened, and he muttered, "Mom and Dad want like that." A chill ran down my spine. Why was he so concerned about what they wanted when this was my home? Then his father called me, his voice dripping with fake wisdom. He explained in his patronizing tone that it just made sense for the house to be in both of our names, because that's what families do. I calmly but firmly told him no. I wasn't comfortable with that arrangement. If things went south, I wasn't about to risk losing the home my grandparents left me. But Daniel wouldn't let it go. He kept pushing, making it seem like I didn't trust him or his family. That's when his mother shifted into full sabotage mode. She started changing wedding details behind my back, telling the planner that I wanted more expensive floral arrangements, switching the menu, and making other costly changes. I kept getting confused calls from vendors, asking why I kept changing my mind. That's when I realized she was impersonating me. She was making all these decisions in my name. When I confronted her, she played played innocent. I just want what's best for you, she'd say with a fake smile. It was infuriating. To make things worse, she started feeding Daniel lies, telling him I was rude to them, that I didn't respect their family traditions. Every time I tried to explain, he brushed it off, telling me I was overreacting. We fought about it constantly, but no matter how much I tried, Daniel never fully took my side. Then, about a month before the wedding, my dad pulled me aside. Had heard from a cousin that Daniel's parents were telling people my house was practically worthless, spreading lies about a crumbling foundation or some other nonsense. At a family gathering, my dad confronted Daniel's father, demanding to know why he was spreading these rumors. Of course, Daniel's dad acted clueless, pretending like he had no idea what my dad was talking about. And Daniel? He just stood there, silent. My dad suggested I postpone the wedding, and maybe I should have listened, but a part of me still believed Daniel would finally see how manipulative his parents were. So, against my better judgment, I went ahead with the wedding. But on the big day, the moment I woke up, something felt wrong. The wedding was at an upscale country club, one his mother had chosen, of course. I was in the bridal suite with my mom, getting ready. My dad and a few friends were there too, trying to keep things light. Guests were arriving, but Daniel and his parents were nowhere to be seen. That should have been my first red flag. Then, suddenly, his mother burst into the room, dragging Daniel behind her like a misbehaving child. She shoved a stack of legal documents at me, a transfer of partial ownership of my house. She hissed that if I didn't sign it, there would be no wedding. I was in shock. I looked at Daniel, expecting him to say something, to defend me, but he just stood there, looking embarrassed. "Just sign it," he mumbled. "Well, figure it out later." It was like a switch flipped inside me. My blood was boiling. "No, I'm not signing anything." That's when his mother lost it. She screamed that I was betraying their family, that my house should be a marital asset. His father stormed in, barking at me to stop throwing a tantrum and threatening to cancel the wedding. And you know what? I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Fine, cancel it." I didn't expect them to actually go through with it. But the next thing I knew, security was escorting me out. I was kicked out of my own wedding. The venue staff looked confused, but they still led me, the bride, out of the building. My parents and friends were furious. My dad was shouting about breach of contract, but the staff just kept saying they were following instructions. So there I was, standing in the parking lot in my wedding dress, completely stunned. I kept looking back, waiting for Daniel to come out and stop this madness. But he never did. Some of my relatives left in outrage, while others tried to get us back inside. But the venue wouldn't budge. It was a complete nightmare. Eventually, we went home. I collapsed onto my couch, still in my dress, and cried until I was numb. My dad was furious. He called the venue, called Daniel's parents, demanding answers, but they wouldn't give any. And then, the next day, Daniel's father had the nerve to call my parents and say, "We can still fix this. If she signs over the house, we can reschedule the wedding. Like we could just reboot everything." My parents let him have it, and I blocked Daniel when he tried to call, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But I wasn't about to let them walk all over me. My dad is pretty protective, and together, we met with a lawyer. First, we looked into getting back some of the money I had paid for the wedding, since I had put down part of the venue deposit. Our lawyer advised sending a formal demand for my share. If they refused, we had a strong case for small claims court. While we got the legal side rolling, word spread around town. People couldn't stop talking about how I got kicked out of my own wedding. Daniel's parents tried to control the narrative. They spread rumors that I was mentally unstable and hiding some massive financial disaster. I wasn't about to let them rewrite the truth. So I posted a short, simple statement on social media. I was asked to sign over partial ownership of my house on my wedding day. I refused. The ceremony was canceled by my ex's family. I appreciate everyone's concern. That was all I wrote, but it was enough to get people talking. Guests who had been at the wedding started chiming in, saying they'd overheard Daniel's parents bragging about acquiring property. It made them look incredibly shady. Instead of backing off, they doubled down. I even heard they called the local police, trying to file a trespassing complaint against me on my own wedding day. It was ridiculous. The police basically laughed it off once they heard the full story. As more people found out what happened, the community started distancing distancing themselves from Daniel's family. They were used to being seen as these respectable, traditional people, but now their reputation was taking a major hit. Then, Daniel's father made a huge mistake. He started leaving me nasty voicemails. He ranted that I owed them for the embarrassment they suffered, and that I needed to come to my senses about the house. I saved every single message, along with all the aggressive texts. When my lawyer heard them, he suggested we consider a protective order. It felt extreme, but after everything they'd done, kicking me out of my wedding, smearing my name, and now harassing me, I wasn't going to just sit back and take it. While we were filing paperwork, I got a call from the venue manager. She sounded nervous, but she apologized. She told me Daniel's family had lied to the staff, saying I was an unruly guest and had to be removed for causing a scene. When she found out I was the bride, she felt terrible. She even offered me vouchers for a future event. I politely declined. I just wanted to move on and get my money back. Meanwhile, Daniel decided to make one last attempt to win me over. He emailed me a long, emotional message. The classic, "Please forgive me" speech. He claimed he was torn between me and his parents, that he never wanted me to sign away my house, but felt pressured. I rolled my eyes. If he couldn't stand up for me on our wedding day, how is he ever going to be a real partner? I forwarded the email to my lawyer, then blocked him again. My father also blocked him, but not before giving him a piece of his mind. It took a couple of months, but we finally ended up in small claims court over the venue deposit. Daniel's parents showed up with an attorney, which was a little overkill for small claims, but whatever. They argued that I had abandoned the ceremony. The judge wasn't buying it. He looked at them and asked, why would the bride be forced out of her own wedding if you really wanted it to happen? They had no good answer. I had screenshots of texts where they threatened to cancel unless I signed over the house. I had receipts showing that I had paid part of the venue cost. The judge ruled in my favor for a partial reimbursement. It wasn't a huge amount, but honestly, just seeing their faces in court made it worth every second. As for Daniel's father, the judge granted me a temporary protective order based on the threatening voicemails. A few weeks later, we had another hearing, and the judge extended it. Daniel's father tried to play it off, saying he was just concerned for his son, but the judge wasn't buying that either. Now, if he contacts me at all, he's looking at real legal trouble. Word got around town fast. People were whispering about how Daniel's family tried to strong-arm me into signing over my house. They lost a lot of social capital. Daniel's mother had planned some big charity event at the same country club where the wedding was supposed to happen. Almost no one showed up. She was humiliated. Honestly, she deserved it. I won't lie. There were days when I felt crushed and embarrassed, but the support I got from my family and friends helped me push through. My mom was devastated that she had to watch me be thrown out of a place we partially paid for. She still gets upset when we talk about it, but we're focused on moving forward. My dad, he's just glad I saw their true colors before legally tying myself to them, and he's right. If they were this controlling before the wedding, I can only imagine how much worse it would have been after we were married. In a weird way, my disaster of a wedding became a cautionary tale. People started calling it the wedding from the Twilight Zone. It became a warning about just how manipulative some families can be. Daniel's parents went from trying to be community big shots to avoiding public events altogether. As for Daniel, he stayed quiet for a while, then tried to get sympathy by saying I was just following my parents' orders. That didn't win him any points. If anything, it just made him look spineless. For my own sanity, I decided to start fresh. I spent a weekend repainting rooms in my house, rearranging furniture, and turning it into a space that felt new, a space that wasn't tainted by bad memories. I even sold the bedroom set Daniel and I had picked out together, got rid of it cheap, and replaced it with something that actually suited me. Because my life, it's mine, and no one, especially not them, will ever have a say in it again. It was a small but powerful gesture, reclaiming the home that my grandparents had entrusted to me. Even now, I still have moments where the anger creeps in. I'll be washing dishes or folding laundry, and suddenly, I'll remember standing in that parking lot in my wedding dress, feeling the gravel under my shoes, and realizing that Daniel had chosen his parents over me. But then, I also remember the satisfaction of walking out of that courtroom with a judgment in my favor, and the relief of knowing I wasn't tied to a family that would have treated me like a doormat. Every time I think about the meltdown Daniel's parents had over not getting my house, I feel nothing but gratitude that I stood my ground. Sure, Some people think I'm bitter or vindictive for taking them to court. I don't regret it one bit. They messed with the wrong person's property. My grandparents worked their entire lives to give me that home, and I wasn't about to let anyone bully me into signing it away. If Daniel's parents thought they could intimidate me into submission, they learned the hard way that I'm not that easy to push around. Moving on. At this point, I'm just living my life, leaning on my family and friends, and focusing on the fact that I dodged a massive headache. The wedding might have been ruined, but I saved myself from a toxic marriage. I don't plan on dating seriously for a while. I'm just enjoying time with friends, maybe even taking a short vacation with my brother for some sun and relaxation. Sometimes, people ask me what I'd say if I ran into Daniel. Honestly, there's nothing left to say. The last time we spoke, he begged me to reconsider, saying his parents were just protective. I told him the truth. I didn't want to live under their thumb. I wasn't going to be used as their meal ticket. If he ever truly apologizes, maybe he'll listen, but I'm not holding my breath. He made his choices, and so did I. Despite everything, I feel more confident in my own judgment. If I ever get that gut feeling again, I'll trust it, and I'll never forget the importance of protecting what's mine. My grandparents gave me a gift that I will cherish forever, and I'll never let a bunch of entitled people think they can take it away from me. The day my in-laws kicked me out of my own wedding because I wouldn't sign over my house, and the way I made sure they regretted every single minute of it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on notifications so you never miss more shocking real-life stories like this. See you in the next one.